Welcome to Neon Cobra Community Interviews. Today, I'm joined by Sandy McGrath, the co-founder and president of MIPGlobal. How you doing, Sandy?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. I want to thank you for kind of joining up today. We've had an opportunity to work together numerous times in the past through various ventures, and I saw what you're kind of doing on LinkedIn and in the community in the industry, and I really wanted to take the time to kind of sit down and talk to you about that. But before we kind of kick into it, I want you to kind of tell the audience who you are, what you do, where you come from, and then we'll kick in.
Yeah, my name's Sandy McGrath. I'm originally from Prince Edward Island, Canada. Um, Moved across to Calgary 2005. Started working at the time at Shaw Cable. Um, Worked there for about 2 years. Got a chance to start working for an MSP called Assistus, which the old owner, I guess, did a play on TELUS when he created his company, which is why he called it that. Um, Worked there from for a couple of years. Really enjoyed it. You know, Started to meet a lot of different business owners here and really getting into the ecosystem in Calgary, which is very like entrepreneurial, very
Yeah.
business focused, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed meeting those people, hearing their stories,
Hmm.
and that really kind of cemented my enjoyment of living in Calgary.
Excellent.
2011, I moved over to a company called Final Frontiers, and I worked there for about 14 years. Again, just heavily involved in the entrepreneurs organization, which really fueled a lot of love and passion for startups, entrepreneurs, and getting a chance to get a sense of like what was success to people
Yeah.
um, and how they functioned and worked. And I loved it. And then in March of this year, moved over to a larger MSP called Alltech, working with a good friend of mine, Dan Mitchell.
Yep.
We'd known each other for many years. He he'd always kind of badgered me about coming over and working for him, and always really wanted to because
Yeah.
Dan and I were very aligned on a lot of the things that we saw and what we thought about, what should happen or how things should work.
Yeah.
Um, and then, this fall, Dan and I launched MIP Global together with a couple other people as well that are working with us, Allison Stadnick and Michelle, his sister. Um, and that's kind of been a bit of a passion project of ours, for
Hmm.
for almost 2 years. It's kind of been sitting there as something that I really wanted to do, and fortunate enough that I've always said I wanted to do cool projects with friends, and this is
Yeah.
probably one of the biggest ones we've got to do. So, really, really excited about getting the opportunity to work with somebody like Dan, who um,
For sure.
if
Yeah.
you know Dan, you love him, and
Oh
you know
yeah.
how much he
Yeah.
cares about people and wants to help and support people as much as I do, which I think was probably why
Hmm.
him and I hit it off so fast.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I think a lot of that, like the journey you've made, is and where you've ended up is really kind of the inspiration I had for this segment that I wanted to do. Um, we're in an interesting kind of time in the channel in the industry with we'll call it the agentic push or the AI push, whatever you want to call it, where it's almost like everyone's racing to a goal that doesn't exist. Like we're just trying to get somewhere because like that's the next thing. But there's a lot of I guess like not bad information, but there's just a lot of information up there. And watching someone actually turn what is an idea into something tangible was really interesting to me, which is why I reached out to do this interview. So you've got the exposure, you got the experience in the industry, like you put your time in. Was it like 7 years in the MS or 1 year in MSP is like 7 years in regular business? So like, you got like 70 years under the belt or something. So more than that, I'm not good on math, but with all this expertise you're bringing in, you saw an opportunity 2 years ago. I was surprised. I would expect it was more of a recent thing, but when you I guess when you look back as to when like Chat GPT opened up Pandora's box, it's that's still arguably late to the game, I guess. Like, what is it, 3 years for Chat GPT? But you guys are doing some really interesting things. So, was there a catalyst or anything on your side that led to the creation of MIP Global?
Yeah, if I think back to when it started, what one of the things that really popped out to me was is like when Copilot launched, it was a really neat add-on tool, but the push to businesses was, just buy it and put it in and you'll figure things out. Everything will be better. Everything will
Yeah,
be faster.
yeah,
And obviously, as we all know, like that's not how that works, whether it's Copilot or pretty much
yeah.
anything else in business. It's not most businesses, to make things successful and
Hmm.
work, they have to be tied to goals, objectives, metrics, things like that that a business can actually,
Yeah.
review and watch and track. And so um the timing was really funny because at the time, this was, just before, I believe, Stampede 2000, almost 2023, I think, or something. Or it was maybe
Yeah, yeah.
after. I was at an event with Microsoft and PAX 8. Rob Ray was there, and we were
Mm,
watching, and we're talking to this Microsoft executive, Western Canada Microsoft executive, and he said, you know, we're not selling a lot of Copilot licenses, and the Copilot adoption is
yeah,
kind of abysmal. And this was his words.
yeah,
And
yeah.
Rob, I remember him sitting, and we were standing on the sidewalk as the three of us, and he's having a smoke, and he was, he was thinking about it. And I remember looking at the Microsoft guy, and I'm like, because trust me, bro, sales tactics doesn't work. And he's like, he just looks
Yeah,
at me like, just kind of shocked. And
yeah,
Rob kind of chuckled, and we could see the wheels spinning in both of us, and we are like, this. There's just something here where somebody has to help businesses figure out how to tie AI to business objectives and goals.
yeah.
Um, and then, at the time, like I said, I was working for Final Frontiers. I had I worked for an awesome guy who gave me tremendous opportunities to,
Hmm.
grow and develop my career and get involved with entrepreneurs and businesses. And so that really shaped a lot of my mindset and what I wanted to do, even going back to 2015 when I was still, or 2014 actually, when I was still kind of just doing technical work, and I decided I wanted to focus more on the business side because I really enjoyed that, and I really enjoyed meeting with businesses,
Yeah.
figuring out what their plans and growth were. So, you know, at that moment, it really kind of clicked for me that that was what was needed.
Hmm.
And it's not, whether it was, at the time it wasn't called MIP Global, but it was something around the lines of like um, MSPs really have the relationships to be able to talk to businesses at a level that allows them to get the answers to the questions to create successful AI projects.
Yeah.
That was like the fundamental like light bulb moment. And so I talked with Rob about it, and I threw some stuff by him, and I said, look, this is what I think. And he didn't right off the bat tell me I'm crazy, which is usually a good sign.
Good indicator. Yeah.
Yeah. So, even if he did, I probably wouldn't have listened to him anyways because it made sense to me at the moment.
Yeah.
Um, and I really, over the year when I was trying to work with Phil, who owned Final Frontiers,
Hmm.
he was at the point, I believe, in his kind of business ownership and that where he was looking for the sale. I don't think he really wanted to get involved with a new adventure, which I've
Yeah.
seen a few times, in the last year or so, where there is a number of MSPs out there where
Yeah.
the ownership might be a bit older, and they're looking at this and going, I don't feel like climbing that new hill. Like,
It's the
this
hill
AI
they
thing
climbed
is
like 20 years ago
right.
to,
They've
to go
been
from break fix to MSP. It's which
That's
it's an
it.
interesting point I think we'll touch on. Yeah.
There's a
Oh, that's
lot of
awesome.
MSP ownerships that have just like, if you think about some of the things that MSPs have not only had to, go through, learn, structure, sell,
Yeah.
commoditize, for their own business, but also to help out and support, you know, thousands, if not millions of other
Yeah.
businesses over the last 30, 40 years. There's some of them that have looked at this AI thing and went, it's not for me. I don't feel like
I'm
doing it.
out.
Right.
Yeah. This is a
Yeah.
good
And
exit
so,
ramp. Yeah. Yeah.
and so I never begrudged them for it. I was hoping, figure it out and, come along and maybe he
Yeah.
would see it and get excited as I was, but he didn't, and that was fine. Um, and then a year afterwards, I went to, if you know Calgary, Stampede is usually a
Hmm.
huge time of the year. Most of the networking and business
Yeah.
contacts and stuff, that's when it's made. Fast forward a year, we're at another PAX 8 kind of event. And I was hanging out with Rob and Ola. I'm
Yep.
not going to try to say her last name because I'm going to kill it again, even though we're good friends.
Yeah.
She said it on stage to me before, and I'm just like, I don't know if she's
Yeah.
suffering from something when she says it. But she, we were there and we were going through, and it was, it was hammering home, and we were watching, and this was on the
Hmm.
heels of another Beyond event that I had gone to, and we watched MSP say, like, look, I'm selling Copilot, but I have no idea what to do with these projects.
Yeah.
I don't
Hmm.
know how to help these businesses. I'm terrified because I know they're getting talked to by whatever flavor of the day Instagram top
Yeah.
10 AI tool sales guys coming by their office, and I
Yeah.
don't want to lose my business.
Hmm.
And Microsoft was on stage at this Beyond event, and they were like, yeah, you'll figure it out. It's like, no, they're not figuring it out. Like,
Yeah.
this is a problem. Um, and there's a gentleman that was working at PAX 8 at the time. His name is Joe Scallion.
Oh yeah. Yep.
And
Joe.
Joe had me on some AI groups leading up to this Beyond but a year and a half ago now.
Hmm.
And Joe and I were sitting there, and I looked at Joe and I said, "Look, like this is what we've been talking about," because I had thrown some ideas past him around. This is what this looks like, and this was long before. This was about a year before the whole MIP thing launched with Beyond
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
year. And again, we were like, this is something that's desperately needed. There's
Right.
somebody's got to start something, and I started talking to Dan at this time and sharing some stuff with him, and Dan, I think got it.
Saw the
He
vision.
he kind of
Yeah.
saw what I was thinking and what was going through my head. Um, and at the time, that's when the sales process was starting with Final Frontiers. So Dan
Gotcha.
and I had talked about, do you want to come over? Do you want to come work at Alltech again? And I said,
Hmm.
well, look, like I love Bill. I've worked for him for, at the time, it was 13 years. I'm
Yeah.
loyal
Yeah.
to him. I want to see the sale through because I think he's getting a good valuation. Um, and I think you know,
Deserves it. Yeah.
he deserves it. And I wanted to be there and help and make sure that got across the finish line.
Yeah.
Um, it did. The end of 2024, 2025, I, walked into it, new year,
Hmm.
new ownership. And I was ready to make a change. So I called Dan up. I think he was on a beach in Mexico, and I called him. I said, Dan, you still want to
Yeah.
do this thing? And he's like, dude, it's like 10 o'clock at night in Mexico, and I think I'm a couple beer in here. Can I call you tomorrow? But
Yeah.
yes, I do want to do this. I'll be back in Alberta in like a week, but I'll call you tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yes. So we did. We worked it out. Um, and that was the intention is we were working it out, and then, come on, work at Alltech,
Yeah.
get started, help out with some stuff, and then get at the time we were going to start our AI consultancy business. And then, the MIPGlobal thing was coming out with PAX 8, and we had done a bunch of work with PAX 8 to kind of let them know leading up to it, like,
Yeah.
this is what we're thinking, this is what we're looking at, this is how we see things working out. And it
Yeah.
aligned a lot with what Rob was thinking, Scott Jason, Nick Hitty. They again, it was a group of people that were looking at us, not like we had two
Yeah.
heads, but that we were actually, aligning a lot with what they were thinking. So that
Yeah.
made
Yeah.
that made the conversations a lot easier when people aren't looking at you like you should be tied up somewhere.
It's always funny because, to the point of the co-pilot where you said, people don't like being sold on, bro, just trust me. There was, I don't think it's, I shouldn't say this, but like when they first rolled it out and like we adopted it at PAX 8, like the general consensus was like, I guess this is cool, but essentially it's a glorified Teams Premium. Like all I'm using it to do is
Right.
just summarize my notes. And like every time I would try to go in to use it, it would like, oh, I can't pull that info. And you'd go to like ChatGPT, the free version, and it'd get you what you need. Right. So it's just like, so where's the and it was kind of focused on like a security standpoints, like you control your data, and that was their push. But like they were missing the goal of like, what problem is this solving? Like this doesn't
It,
solve a problem. It gives me a fancy chat engine, and it's a takeover for Chat GPT, but it's not solving for anything. And then
it,
like 16 months ago, I don't know, maybe a year ago, something clicked, something changed. I think someone told me it was like they built a semantic index that just started training itself and got smarter. And now I see the value in Copilot. Like, talk to me 2 years ago. Nah, it's smoke and mirrors. It'll get there. But like now I use it quite actually just to search and validate things that I've talked about over the last 4 years at PAX 8. Still use it with a grain of salt, but like it is miles ahead of where it was when they first dropped it. And like the pricing structure is a little bit nicer now too for a lot of people. And, so it tends to be a little bit more of an easy adoption. And then agents was like the big thing, right? Like once they
yeah,
rolled that out, that really started to world your oyster type scenario, like whatever you can think of, you can make kind of thing, which I think is really kind of the catalyst that our industry needed. So we're not just stuck using whatever Microsoft says is cool. Like you can go and do your own thing. So I think that was really kind of the big turning point for organizations like MIPGlobal, having runway essentially to do something. Um, yeah, no, it's really fascinating to hear because like I remember being at that Beyond this year and kind of seeing it be spoken into existence, and then probably the same moment of like, what does this look like? How do we do this? And then internal leaders like, well, how do you sell something like this? How do you build? And the fundamental piece, I think, and I'd love to hear from you if you agree, is the business understanding, the process automation, and like the actual understanding businesses. And that'll probably be like the biggest hurdle most MSPs have if they're trying to become an MIP and deal in that is, a lot of times is we see a technical problem, we solve the technical problem. And all we do is we live within the systems that we control. But eventually you move into I understand your business process automations, like things that don't necessarily flow through IT, like how orders are received, how you interface with your clients, how you measure success. And a lot of MSPs likely don't have that insight or skill set, right? Which makes it very, very difficult. So, what would you say, like for MIP Global, what is the differentiator? Because if I would look at you from the outside, like I could just say, for argument's sake, you're just a rebranded MSP. What's the difference?
right.
What's the secret sauce for you guys?
Right now, I think um, the key part of it is a background in business. Whether it's
Yeah.
through different programs we've been, degrees, training, certification.
Mhm.
Um, and I go back to what I said about I think MSPs are well positioned to do well
Yeah.
because they've been meeting with business and decision makers for I don't know what the numbers are, but you half the time you talk to MSPs, their average clients are anywhere from they've stayed with them for anywhere from
Yeah.
5 to 10 years, right? So it's like when you're meeting with businesses for 5 to 10 years, you're getting to learn, or you should be able to get an
You'd hope.
opportunity to
Yeah.
learn quite a bit about that
Yeah.
business.
Yeah.
The difference is whether or not, are you having QBRs to prove value because you're doing technical reviews and you're showing them that you're meeting all the objectives from your QBR, like your ticket
Yeah.
times or what they are, your escalations or, and whatever KPIs that you've got in your QBR. Or are you actually having business reviews where you're talking to them about business strategy? What are they trying to do in the next 1, 3, 5 years? What are some
Yeah.
things, are you bringing projects to the table? And this is pre-AI. This was just like,
Proper
what
VCIO, right?
that's
Yeah.
right. So to an extent, it's like, are you doing these things that you're like coming to someone and saying, "Hey, Matt, like in your industry, we've seen this,
Mhm.
and we've seen it help businesses. I know, or
Yeah.
we've got our professional partnerships where, we're aware of other MSPs that we're friends with or partners with, um, and their clients are doing these things as well, and
Yeah.
bringing that forward. So now when you're looking at AI, you know, there's there's a world where, yes, from a technical standpoint, you can build
Mhm.
solutions and sell agents on a marketplace. Absolutely. You know,
Yeah.
That is what people are going to do. And then there's also the world where there is you are from your business acumen able to talk with businesses and understand what the impacts are to them through your discovery and interview processes.
Yeah.
Um, and that's where, right now, that's kind of where we're focusing on is we're meeting with clients and we're meeting with businesses to understand what their business problems are.
Hmm.
And we're helping them in some cases, because not all businesses, I think that's kind of one of the fun things that you learn as an MSP, and especially as you focus more and more on business, is just because one of your clients is in business doesn't mean they understand business. You can't
Yeah.
just assume that they
Yeah. A lot of
understand
it.
things.
It's
You know,
timing. Yeah. Yeah.
that's right. So like, there's a lot of cases where you're helping them understand what something's costing them to do,
Hmm.
what something's costing them not to do. Opportunity
Yeah.
loss costs. um, you'd be surprised how many times I've done interviews with people where there's zero or very little
Yeah.
understanding about the tasks that are involved to get something that's one of their core business objects done,
Yeah.
right? And so, like, as you're going through this process with them to figure out the automation, you're helping them uncover things where they didn't even
Hmm.
understand it in some spots, which
So,
which is actually,
yeah.
like, to me, to someone like me who has had the opportunities to go through his business, I love that stuff
Yeah. Yeah.
because helping businesses, like, it's almost like helping, understand a person or raise a kid in some ways. It's like
Yeah.
it's a lot of fun to me, and so I've
Hmm.
I've enjoyed the process quite a bit.
That's awesome. Yeah. I know a lot of times, like you get your, for lack of a better term, you see the forest through the trees, right? If you've just been living in this process, sometimes it could have been a process established by a manager three generations prior. It's like, well, why do you do it this way? I don't know. That's just how I was trained, So sometimes, that's kind of the lifeblood of a consultant. You come in with fresh sets of eyes. Sticking the landing is what makes you a great consultant, but like coming in and to identify, find areas of improvement. That's really, I think, will probably be the biggest differentiator for someone in this half, or in this growing industry. So, no, that's been fantastic. I want to kind of take a little bit of a pivot. Are you seeing any kind of industry trends? We've touched on a couple of them, like talking about how like Copilot hit the market and ChatGPT, but are you seeing industry trends more focused around maybe the channel, right? Like, so specifically how MSPs are being kind of brought into this. Are you seeing specific industry trends that are maybe great or bad in the market? And do we see any shifts in the Canadian side? Are we any different over here, or is it like just a global issue at this point?
I'll touch base on the Canadian one first. I mean, the Canadian
Mm-hmm.
one, it always used to be interesting. Like 20 years ago, when I got into MSP space, there was always this thing about how many years behind Canadian MSPs were to like American
Yeah,
MSPs. I think that gap has closed considerably.
I would
But the
agree.
one thing that's still very different in Canada versus the US is the compliancy landscape. There just isn't the same requirements and compliancy up here. So if you're Canadian and you go to an American conference, you'll hear tons around offerings and MSPs that have to juggle through different
Yep.
compliancies that you just don't have to do here.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I'm not saying that's good or bad or whatever, but I do know that in Canada, in my experience, a lot of stuff is dictated around who can mandate what.
Yeah.
So a lot of the cybersecurity stuff that people have been telling people to do for, a lot of it wasn't new, but it was,
Mm-hmm.
10 plus years old of recommendations around things like MFA and,
Yeah.
training,
Okay.
teaching
Out of date
people about
operating
phishing and
systems.
things like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Until insurance companies could actually either deny or drastically increase your business insurance,
Yeah.
or people couldn't bid on certain RFPs because of partnerships and stuff that required cybersecurity.
Yeah.
Things were changing. So that is definitely one thing that's a lot different about Canada than the US is the
Mm-hmm.
compliancy side. It's starting to pick up, though, I will
Yep.
say. There's a lot more in the last year or two, a lot more conversations around mandated compliancy
Mm-hmm.
for businesses and that. So I think that'll change too over the next couple of years, and then I don't know, probably in the next 2 to 5 years if there even will be a gap. Like North America might
Right.
just be pretty much on par.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of what I'm seeing in trends, one of the neat things that I'm seeing and I don't. I want to kind of want to talk to more MSPs and see if they're seeing it too. So I'm kind
Mm-hmm.
of being intentional about it when I go out and I ask people. But as businesses adopt more and more AI projects, especially around the agent building, not just the flows and automation stuff, but the agent building process, what I'm seeing is that they're not going to their dashboards and analytics as much.
Mm-hmm.
They want to go to the agent, get the answer, and then make a decision or do what they're going to do from that. There is a bit of a process in some cases where they're verifying the output of the agent against some of their analytics and dashboards,
Yeah.
but in some cases it seems to be that they're going from prompts to getting the information to action,
No validation. Yeah.
and the dashboards and stuff are kind of getting, I don't want to say replaced.
Yeah.
But they're being consulted, I guess you could say, if you're looking at it like an entity at the moment, they're being
Mm-hmm.
consulted for verification. But at a certain point, I feel like um, you're going to be interacting with agents and not, and you won't be seeing dashboards and stuff, especially if you've got dashboards that like refresh once every 4 hours or
Right. Yeah.
only pulls data once a day or stuff like that. Like those reports, you're just not going to be able to live off them or work anymore. So they're going to become obsolete, if they're not
Mm-hmm.
already, which they probably are. Um, and real time information from your agents that are pulling from knowledge sources that it has access to, you're going to see people just like working from those. And that's what we've
Mm-hmm.
seen, which is kind of neat, right? Like, I think that's cool.
Yeah.
I know that, um, that might not make some people happy or some people might think that that's crazy and
Yeah.
sure. Um, but I'll be interested to see what that means for like the bright gauges and the Power BI people of the world who are building dashboards and stuff and how this is impacting their lives. Probably over the next, 5 years, if they see decline, there's less
Mm-hmm.
and less requests. What this means for built-in tools and services,
Right.
in things like PSAs and stuff. If
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
need to consult them and read them, you can just ask your agent and kind of continue on or focus on whatever that,
Mm-hmm.
that might be the new world.
I am curious because I know like I don't necessarily think it's a like an AI fear tactic, but like there's always I'll see it all the time is like, oh, it hallucinated, it gave you wrong info. Are you gonna make business decisions off something that can give you incorrect info? And I'm like, but like a human can give you incorrect info that you make business decisions on. So like for someone that would bring that sort of I don't say fear monger, but like a cautionary approach to AI, what would your
Yeah.
response be?
I mean, just kind of like you said, like how many times have we worked with people that are, wrong about things that are just like, you know, they bring that forward as well. So what's the difference?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I think one of the things when I look forward on AI and that is like, you know, what what are you doing for your business now to get ready for when the AI is too smart to verify?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I brought up a few times to people is like we're we're very quickly rushing forward to a point where you're going to have non-prompt AI bringing forward recommendations and solutions that is running at a PhD level.
Yeah.
And how many people in the world, like how many PhDs are kicking around in the MSP space? Like,
Mm-hmm.
a handful? Like, I don't know, right? But
Yeah.
I know not every MSP has one in their back pocket that can go
Yeah.
back and verify the information, right? So it's like we're getting to the point here soon where businesses are going to have access to intelligence and thought
Mm-hmm.
output that is smarter than they can verify.
Yeah.
So at some point we're going to have to just trust and react after the fact anyways.
Yeah. It
So
really puts like a risk analysis lens on things too, which like should be done anyways
yeah.
with any tech, right? But it'd be really interesting. It's hard to have this conversation without sounding like a doomsayer, being like, eventually it's just going to be so smart, like you just got to take its word for it. It's going to run everything. But there are
I look
steps
at
you
it
can
as a
do, and
positive though.
yeah, Yeah, if I don't have to
Like, I
spill out
mean, I
another
think,
spreadsheet and report, that'd be
right?
great.
Like, I mean,
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, like having access to more intelligence, it's a matter of how you're going to utilize it, right? Like, are you
Yeah.
going to utilize it to help educate yourself, grow your business, give opportunities to people within your organization that never got a chance before,
Hmm.
right? And we talked about it last, not me and you, but it was on a panel last week, and we had discussed,
Yeah.
um, what are you doing with some of the time that you're freeing up with your automation and AI projects? Like, in most cases, people were talking about, well, you know, we haven't thought about it, or we're not really sure. And it's like, well, what if you reinvested it back in education and training for your existing staff?
Hmm.
That allows them to, continue to get smarter and more intelligent and build even better and better solutions that save even more and more time. And um, looking at that as a capacity availability opportunity so that you can have
Yeah.
them freed up to do, even if you can only bill for them for 25%, but you can bill for them for 25% at like, 5x what you used to be able to bill for people at a certain
Hmm.
price, right? So um
Yeah.
it's all about the positivity you want to put on something and look for the opportunities. If you want to dwell on all the bad things that could happen, I mean,
Yeah. I
I,
think
I
that'll be the
don't see
big
that as a way
aspect.
to live.
Yeah, the big side of it too is right. Like you'll see all the headlines like Amazon lays off 400,000 due to new AI initiatives, or I'm just paraphrasing, but like
Nope, for sure.
that could very well be an article, right? So, and you'll see that, but like when you look at the small to medium business side, the impact, while it could be sweeping for the business, like it's not like suddenly Ted or Nancy is about to get released from accounting because we installed an AI engine. Now Ted and Nancy can like maybe fix some other problems in the industry that they work within, or maybe grow within the organization. And if you free up those cycles and say don't have to hire another staff, that bucket of investment you had for like another head could go into just making the lives of everyone in the business better, right? Whether it is, raises, bonuses, even like education, more vacation, like anything, right? And I think that'll really be up to the businesses themselves. And a lot of people tend to put a lot of like hate on AI and be like, look, AI, it's costing all these jobs. AI didn't do that, right? Someone saw an opportunity and took it for profitability. And like that's their prerogative. So I think kind of disconnecting the emotional reaction to AI can be very beneficial for businesses that are looking to adopt it, right? But not losing the human aspect of like, just because we brought this in doesn't mean like we're heartless kind of thing. So I think that kind of growth will really help the industry in that sense. Like, don't lose the people side of things.
Yeah, that you hit on a really important part too, and this is where MSPs can also really provide a lot of value, is the ability to make people feel safe. Like,
Yeah.
one of the things now is unfortunately, with all the news headlines that AI has done this and AI
Hmm.
layoffs, and um now a lot of people, when they hear AI automation, those words, they immediately go to panic.
Yeah.
Adoption again goes to the basement, and they don't want to be part of that, because that, to them, they
Hmm.
just see that as the road to death for their jobs and their career and,
Yeah.
and their future. Um, and this is where I've liked our approach with MIP Global so far, is the conversations we're having with people. We're positioning things where you're a business owner. We want to do this with you to help you with staff augmentation. It's
Yep.
not about staff replacement. It's not about, and we're not looking for those projects. Like,
Right.
we're partnering with small to medium businesses right now. um, and one of the clients had talked about 5xing his EBITDA, and he doesn't.
Yeah.
It wasn't about getting rid of staff. If anything, it's more of like, what's the realm of possible without me having to hire 5 times the staff
Yep.
to get to this goal. And what we thought was really interesting with this particular project was the employee benefit stuff that he was going to include with the
With the
valuation
EBITDA.
increase.
Yeah.
Um, and what that was going to do for some of these people's lives, that we were
Hmm.
really grateful that he shared with us, and this was his vision of going forward. I want to do these AI projects because
Yeah.
I think I can, quadruple the output of the existing people while actually reducing some of their
Yeah.
workload. They hate doing 80% of the garbage that I'm asking them to do anyways because it sucks the life out of them and it's repetitive.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I could free up, like 80% of their day. They could focus on the things that they actually enjoyed or went to school for.
Hmm.
I can grow the business, and in turn, here's the profitability stuff we're going to give back to the staff to help them with quality of life in their future, so they can do things for their family and that. Like
Yeah.
you know, we get involved in projects like that. Like that was a dream for us.
Yeah. That's like the best case win scenario, right? Like that
Yeah,
is, it doesn't get any sweeter than that, right? Like seeing
yeah.
ROI both from a business level and like just a human aspect is like the ultimate win for that. Well, so winding down, I guess one last question I'd like to ask you is, what advice would you give an MSP that's looking to branch into AI? We're talking about like any size MSP, but if you want to maybe pick like a operational maturity size or something along that, we can isolate.
I I would say, and people are going to be like, you're kicking the dead horse here, but I would say reinvest time into identifying in your staff who are people with a knack or have the lean towards business acumen.
Hmm.
Having more people that can develop relationships and conversations with people naturally, or show the aptitude to do so, that you could send to some sort of, whether it's a nights and weekends business course so they can understand some of the business, fundamentals. Um, you know, invest in things that allows for people to build the relationships, be able to talk to people, be able to network, stuff like that. I think that's going to be really, really important, because it's very easy to get lost in the tech. And the,
Hmm.
the problem with the tech right now is the tech's changing so fast.
Weekly.
You know,
Yeah.
very few people can actually keep up with it, if at
Hmm.
all. And so like where's the differentiator going to be? It's like your ability to roll out as many people as possible that can meet with your prospects and your clients and talk
Hmm.
with them like at a business level so that they can understand, in non-technical speak,
Right.
what is going to help them grow their business or be a differentiator for them in the way that they understand, in ways that they see success
Yeah.
that's valuable to them, and then in turn be able to take the business's you know objectives, their desires, what's success to them, and articulate that back into a tech team that's in a way that the tech team can build the services and products they need to help with that business.
Yeah.
I think that's, if I was going to give some advice and around what you should do, I would say like I would look for opportunities to reinvest in your people to help develop business acumen and business
Yeah.
communication skills.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. Amazing conversations. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. Where can
You
people
too,
find
buddy.
you to connect?
I'm on LinkedIn, so Sandy McGrath, president of MIPGlobal. I'm also still a director of Altech, so I didn't go anywhere there either. Some people,
Okay.
I think we confuse them a bit.
Yep. I think I did.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
I did not handle that well at all. I think
Yeah.
everybody thought I quit Altech within 6 months, and I was like,
Yep.
no, I'm still here. I still love it.
Just wearing two hats. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
just doing my best to do as best as possible with two.
Amazing.
And then Sandy at MIPGlobal.ai is my email. So if anybody has any questions or wants to touch base, but LinkedIn's usually the best way to get a hold of me, and that's the easiest
Excellent.
one. Just Sandy
All right.
McGrath.
I'll make sure I get you tagged in all these videos so they can find you. And want to thank everyone for the tuning in and joining. If you have any questions or anybody else you would like to see have an interview like this, let me know. And thank you again. Catch you next
Thanks,
time.
buddy.